Hey everyone, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into a reality that literally dictates the lives of millions of people all over the world: movement restrictions under occupation. We're going to unpack the complex mechanics of these systems and, really look at what it truly means for the people who have to navigate them every single day. I want you to just imagine your typical morning for a second. Think about your daily commute to work, dropping the kids off at school, or, rushing to a hospital for an urgent appointment. Now imagine that entire route being controlled by someone else. Imagine waiting hours at a physical barrier just across town, or worse, needing explicit, documented permission simply to visit your own family members. For millions of people living under occupation, this isn't some hypothetical thought experiment. It's everyday life. So, here's our roadmap for today. First up, freedom of movement denied. Second, mechanisms of control. Third, the daily toll. Fourth, security versus human rights. And finally, pathways to a balance.
Section 1. Freedom of movement denied. Understanding the basics. Okay, let's get right into it. Freedom of movement is really the baseline of any functioning society. It's your fundamental right to travel, to access healthcare, to earn a living. But under occupation, this baseline is completely stripped away. Suddenly, movement is dictated by military orders and restricted zones. And what that does is it turns mundane, everyday activities into highly unpredictable and honestly, sometimes totally impossible tasks.
Section 2. Mechanisms of control, checkpoints, and permits.
So checkpoints are essentially the physical bottlenecks of occupation. Whether they're permanent structures or just temporary roadblocks, anyone passing through basically faces a gauntlet. We're talking identity checks, full vehicle inspections, and intense security screenings. Your morning commute could be delayed by a few minutes, sure, but it could also stretch into agonizing hours or even end in an outright denial of passage.
And then, beyond those physical barriers, lies a vast bureaucratic maze, the permit system. You actually have to actively apply for permission to do things most of us just take for granted. Working, seeing a doctor, visiting family. It is a notoriously lengthy process and is totally defined by uncertainty. You submit your application, you wait, and the outcome is pretty much a coin toss. It could be accepted, delayed, or just flat out rejected. That kind of unpredictability absolutely paralyzes any sort of long-term planning for families and local businesses.
Section 3. The daily toll, education, healthcare, and the economy. Now, let's look at the ripple effects here, starting with education. Because of those unpredictable checkpoint delays we just talked about, students and teachers face massive hurdles just trying to reach their classrooms. The result? Super long travel times, frequently missed classes, and severed access to educational resources. And over time, those daily hurdles compound, ultimately crippling the educational opportunities of an entire generation.
Then there's healthcare, which arguably is one of the most critically sensitive areas affected by all this. We're looking at delayed medical appointments, incredibly difficult access to hospitals, and constant interruptions in vital medical supply chains. And it's not just the patients who suffer. Medical professionals themselves encounter major roadblocks, literally and figuratively, just trying to get to clinics to do their jobs. So these movement restrictions end up putting massive, overwhelming pressure on the entire healthcare system.
And of course, we absolutely have to connect the dots on how restricted movement stifles the economy. Look at these cascading effects. Workers physically struggle to reach their jobs, businesses face massive delays in getting essential goods and supplies, farmers routinely run into obstacles just trying to access their own land or get their produce to the market. Naturally, this makes investors incredibly hesitant to put capital into areas where even basic transportation is a huge question mark. The immediate result of all that is rising unemployment and dropping productivity, which pushes poverty higher. This economic impact doesn't just hurt today, it echoes across generations.
The consequences are not only physical and economic, they are also emotional. It is so crucial to ground these systemic impacts in the human reality. When you can't attend a wedding or a funeral or a community event, the social fabric really starts to fray. These restrictions take a largely invisible but deeply profound toll on mental well-being and community cohesion. Section 4. Security versus human rights, the global debate. So, zooming out a bit, the core of this debate comes down to a fundamental clash. Occupying authorities generally justify these systems purely on security grounds, preventing violence, monitoring movement, and protecting personnel. Critics, on the other hand, argue from a human rights perspective. They emphasize that these measures can easily become excessive, inflicting a punishing and disproportionate impact on huge civilian populations, while simultaneously stripping away basic human dignity.
International humanitarian law attempts to navigate this incredibly delicate balance. The legal framework explicitly recognizes that occupying powers do have legitimate security responsibilities, yet, at the exact same time, it heavily emphasizes the absolute necessity of protecting civilians, maintaining human dignity, and allowing freedom of movement.
Section 5. Pathways to a balance. Proposed solutions.
While every conflict is entirely unique, here are 5 clear, actionable solutions proposed by international organizations to incrementally restore some normalcy. Number 1. Implementing faster, transparent digital permit systems to cut down on that agonizing uncertainty. 2. Establishing dedicated humanitarian corridors so that access to hospitals, schools, and emergency services is never blocked. 3. Utilizing independent international monitoring to actually verify if restrictions are necessary and proportionate. 4. Fostering confidence-building dialogue to reduce tensions between communities. And 5. Pursuing long-term political settlements, which, ultimately, offer the only truly sustainable way to address these restrictions for good.
So, to wrap this all up, a checkpoint is fundamentally 2 things at once. For some, it's a necessary security measure, but for others, it's a massive, daily obstacle that dictates literally every aspect of their life. Finding ways to ensure security while still preserving human dignity is the ultimate challenge here. I want to leave you with this provocative thought to ponder. Can security and freedom of movement truly be balanced under occupation? Thank you for exploring this explainer with me today. Keep asking questions, and we'll see you next time.